Hey, and welcome back to another episode of the Unfair Advantage podcast. Today, I'm excited to be joined by Mr. Clifton Muckenfuss, who is someone I met earlier this year and is likely one of the most energetic people I've ever met. Clifton is a seasoned entrepreneur and has a unique perspective on fostering long-term client relationships and creating high-performance company cultures. Clifton has owned home service companies in the past. He's the founder of Building Raving Fans and the director of coaching at Win Rate Consulting, where he empowers leaders in the home service industry to achieve sustainable growth. But before Clifton's success, he was arrested 7 times, sold and abused drugs, and lived in an empty apartment with no power for a period of time. Clifton is someone who never gave up, attesting his superpowers to being resilient and disciplined. But without further ado, Clifton, welcome on.
Hey, Brad, I greatly appreciate that introduction. I'm excited to be with you here today and share this moment with you as well as your audience.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for hopping on. I know you're super crazy busy and all of that. But let's talk a little bit about your background. Obviously, I mentioned in the intro, you went from at one period of your life being arrested 7 times, sold drugs, abused drugs. One thing I didn't say in the intro was you were on food stamps at one point, to now you seem pretty well off and are blessed. And so there's a huge journey of transformation that happens there, and just would love to kind of hear what was entailed.
There is, it's been a huge transformation, and there's been some pivotal moments. If I kind of start from the beginning, as a single child as an only child, I grew up with my grandparents. My mother was part of my life, and my father was also a part of my life. But he and my mother divorced when I was 2. I was always seeking acceptance and attention, and that was how I felt loved. Growing up with grandparents and in the 70s and into the 80s, my grandparents they grinded every day. My granddad was a small business owner. My mom just worked every day. And so that was just a culture that I grew up around. And so I was just longing for this acceptance. I joke now with my children. I have 3 amazing kids, but I tell them now, I said, hey, listen, you've got built-in friends, built-in best friends that you can come to or go to at a moment's notice and share what's on your heart. I didn't have that. But growing up, that's what I was seeking. I was always kind of the life of the party and looking to fit in. And so didn't really get into a lot of trouble when I was in high school. You hear these stories where in high school people were dropouts and all this stuff. Now, I will say, listen, if any of my high school teachers happen to tune into this podcast, I'll apologize in advance of that. But there were times in high school, sorry, Mom, that, a group of us would meet before high school out at the yard, which was just basically an empty field. And we would crush a 6-pack, drink some liquor and then go to school, right? At 7:30 in the morning. But I wasn't, you hear those stories about, I dropped out of high school and I was abusing drugs. That wasn't me in high school. But, I was programmed, Brad, as a child that, if you're ever going to amount to anything, you have to go to college, right? That was just, again, it was one of those time period generational things. Like you're never going to amount to anything without that piece of paper that your audience listening can't see me pointing to on my wall back here, which is my degree from Clemson University. But that was how I was raised. So that's all I thought about. And so I went to college and I'm thinking, holy shit, I'm away from my family. There's really no rules other than what the RA on the hall sets. But anyway, so in college, it was much different. Like I rushed a fraternity, and how you fit in there is you end up making some bad decisions. Not everyone, but I did.
Yep.
I had been enrolled at Clemson for probably, I don't know, 7 days, 10 days. And I went to the grocery store and got popped for underage possession and fake ID. And 30 days later, the exact same officer arrested me again at a concert, underage possession, fake ID. You think I would have learned? But I didn't. And truthfully, if that were to happen now, punishment would probably be much more severe. So this was in 1995. Wow, that makes me seem old. But in 1995, it was like, hey, listen, you get released on personal recognizance that just says, hey, you pay a fine and all this stuff. But here's the thing. That bad decision led to another bad decision that led to some more bad decisions, which, I said, hey, how can I fit in more? In college, you're drinking, you're doing things you're not supposed to, and fell in with some wrong people by today's standards. And how could I fit in more? I could be the life of the party, and I could sell pharmaceuticals. I could abuse them. I could sell this. I could sell that. And I mean, as bad as this sounds, I'm actually truly grateful for all of that. And here's why. Is because as an entrepreneur, that's where I got my best training. And I'm not here to advocate. I'm not here to advocate for what I did. So don't misunderstand, audience. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that life experience is what will prepare you for what's ahead of you. Right? You've heard the phrase, you grow through what you go through. I got arrested several more times while I was in college, and it was generally around abusing alcohol, or taking drugs, disorderly conduct, another possession charge. Probably the worst, Brad, is I was a senior in college, I believe it was. And it's hard for me to try to recall a lot of this because I've spent the last 15 plus years to like subconsciously or consciously like suppress a lot of these memories. But I think I was a senior in college, and I had been out all night, and I was going home driving drunk, just again, poor decision making.
Right.
And someone hit me from behind at a stop sign. And I got out of my vehicle and I walked back to that car. It's probably 2:30 in the morning, and the driver rolls down his window, and all the people in the car start shouting at me, what the hell are you doing? This and that and the other. And I just literally light switch. And I hit this dude probably 25 times through the window as he sat buckled in a seat. Just blood went everywhere. And I got back in my car and drove home and passed out. And about 2 days later, my roommate wakes me up one morning. He goes, hey, dude, the police are at the front door looking for you. I'm like, tell them I'm not here. They're like, dude, they know you're here. They got arrested for aggravated assault and battery. Here's a 10-year sentence at that point. And it was a bad time. It was a dark time, very dark time. And so all of the people that you were trying to impress, you were trying to connect with, you were trying to gain favor from, they weren't there to save you or to save me. But I will tell you, again, I think that's why I'm so grateful now and so appreciative now and so connected with God. And maybe we'll talk about this is that he spared me from all of those poor decisions. I could have gone to jail for 10 years. I stood before a judge. Now, mind you, I was so intoxicated at that moment and when that happened, like I didn't even recognize the guy who was the plaintiff. He was in one of my classes and I had no clue. And so anyway, that day I stood before the judge and just asked for mercy, asked for peace. Hey, man, like this is terrible. Now, mind you, he had seen me 4 times. Had every reason to say, you're full of shit. He didn't. Got out, had to go to anger management classes. I had to write this guy a check. I didn't. My grandparents did. And it was kind of a wake-up call for a brief moment in time. I ended up graduating from college and I moved down to Atlanta, and Atlanta's a big city. Atlanta's a big city to get into a lot of trouble, potentially. And these same patterns of behavior, decision-making continued. Again, taking drugs, selling them. Got arrested for a DUI. Again, you would think I would have learned. God was sending me all of these messages. Dude, you should be in prison. You're not. Like, think about how many times you've driven incapacitated and you're still here, and you
Right.
did it again, and now you're in jail for DUI. I learned some lessons along the way there. But really where this all kind of comes full circle is I got out of Atlanta, I moved to DC. I was just chasing women, chasing opportunity because I thought that having a good time, having a bunch of money, being the life of the party, being really in an altered state, thought that was where I was going to gain happiness, significance, fulfillment. Truly, Brad, I was living with a hole in my heart, right? I left DC, I moved down to Florida, and at the time I didn't know why, but now I know it was God. This lady, this young girl walked into this bar I was in and introduced herself. And what's weird is like she's totally not outgoing, but she did that night, and we developed connection that evening. And a few days later, a few weeks later, I was cooking her dinner because that was what I thought would go to her heart because I love to cook. And she said to me in that moment, I'm in love with you. And I'm like, completely out on this. And so I walked out of that apartment that day and broke her heart in that moment. But she came back, and something God nudged me back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then the final episode was I was preparing to move to North Carolina, and I went out again, was young, went out again, got intoxicated, came home, got into a fight with my neighbor, and he beat the shit out of me. And I woke up in Seminole County jail so that was kind of my wake up 7 times. I'm going to say this because it's kind of humorous, but my children just asked me recently, he said, Dad, is that you? Explain your mugshot to your children, right? But in that moment, I got arrested. I pleaded with my neighbor. I ended up getting out of that. The point of all of this, Brad, is this. I became really good at negotiating.
I bet you did.
Incredible salesmanship, incredible ability to negotiate. But I moved to North Carolina, and God had given me all of these opportunities to grow. We moved to North Carolina in 2008. And if you remember what was happening there, as the Great Recession was going on, I moved there to work in the mortgage business. The mortgage company I moved there for. Shortly thereafter moving, my grandmother passed away, and the mortgage company went out of business. And I was there with that new girlfriend, unemployed, nothing, had really no idea what I was going to do. And she said, what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. And she looked at me and she goes, I believe I would start crying. Because up until that moment, Brad, I'd given nobody any reason to believe, not even myself.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's been arrested 7 times, why the hell would anybody believe in him? But yet this young lady saw something that I didn't even see in myself.
Yeah.
That was, and so then over the next, period of time, we grew that business to a really good business. But I was literally cleaning toilets. Talk about these setbacks, but I went from having a ton of money. Like when we talk about stacks of cash, yeah, I had a safe with stacks of cash. All that shit was. Now here I was, okay, well, what am I going to do now? What do people hate to do? They hate to clean their house. Yeah, shit. I literally started a cleaning company from my apartment community, Clubhouse. And I was paying myself $200 a week, cleaning toilets, literally in some of the worst conditions you could possibly ever imagine. You want to know something about somebody, go see how they live.
Yep.
It's almost like social media. Right? You guys got it all together, and you like get to know that person. You're like, that dude is broken. Right?
Yep.
That Ferrari he's got over there, he actually rented that for a photo shoot. But anyway, so we grew that business, Brad, and that was kind of my first venture into real legal entrepreneurship. And so that's kind of the backstory there, but
Yeah.
I'll let you kind of guide this conversation wherever you want it to go from here.
Yeah. It's crazy as you were talking about how like you kind of are like told like go off to college. Like that's the way. And you pointed to your degree. I got mine up here behind me. And it's like I joke that like that piece or those 2 pieces of paper, that's my $90,000 ticket to meet my wife. Like that's what like not that I'm not using what I learned in college, but like what I'm doing now is what I did before college. And it's like I just like nobody, like my older siblings didn't go, and it was like, all right, like I'm gonna be the first one in my family to go, like that kind of thing. And so as you're talking about that, that kind of resonated. But what really resonated with me about all this is you mentioned arrested 7 times, and you mentioned God, and there is a, those who are listening, like the first episode of the podcast, I interviewed a guy named Tommy DeLong. I don't know if you know who he is, and he had gone through a time period in which like God is kind of like what got him on the right path. And I had only been going to, I guess, back to church, my wife and I, for 6 months or so. She got laid off in June of last year. We found the church in end of July going into August. And but I recall one of the sermons we were listening to about um, a story in the Bible where like goes back 7 times and like is being told to go, like God's going to be there, and goes and he's not there. It's like, nope, you got to come back the next day, and 7 times. And so as you're talking about, I'm like, it's almost like 7 was that number that was meant to happen for you.
And this is a biblical number for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as you were talking, you mentioned God, I'm like, it's that number 7, which is just crazy to me to think about. It's like, and there's people who say, that's whatever. It's like, how? Like 7 times. It's crazy. So what a journey to go through and everything like that. So you open up that business, cleaning. You mentioned everybody hates cleaning. I'm one of them. Hate it all. You mentioned going to somebody's house and like see how they live. Like you'll see like, hey, these guys live nice and clean, but they slack off every once in a while. That's us right now. Build a cleaning
We found a
company.
problem, right? People have a problem, and we provided a service to solve that problem, which is what business is about.
Yeah, absolutely. So you solve that problem, and then I guess you guys just, some people just like dissolve a company and move on. Some people sell the company. Do you guys sell that company at that point?
Yeah, no. So it's a great question. So I wasn't passionate about cleaning toilets. Let's just be honest, right? But I grew that business, and so in 2010, I had an opportunity. Childhood best friend approaches me and says, "Hey, let's start this remodeling company." I'm like, man, that sounds so much better than janitorial and all this stuff. And so we sat down at a brewery, 3 of us, and I came to that meeting with a Post-it note, and I said, "Hey, here's our plan. I need $1,500 from you. I need $1,500 from you, and I'm going to put in $1,500, and like we're going to start this construction company. $4,500." And my one buddy looked at me and goes, "Dude, you're crazy as shit. A construction company in 2010." I said, "Cool. Hey man, go get another beer." I turned to my other buddy and said, "Hey man, I don't need 1,500. I need 1,750 from you. We're going to now start the business. Instead of on 4,500, we're going to start on 3,500." It was the greatest decision we ever made. And didn't know anything about construction. So when I say that, like I can't read in one of the interview notes or one of the application questions you asked, like, what do you not talk about? Or I think I offered up, what do you don't talk? I don't talk about math. Like I can convert grams to ounces, but 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, 5/8
Right.
fraction, nothing. No. Tape measures, I got nothing. I had to get the tape measure that had every little tick mark on it, right? But we started this company. I sold that company a 91 Ford panel van that the cleaning company owned for $500. And I was driving that around. It had no heat, no AC. And if you put more than a half a tank of gas in it, the remaining would start leaking out because the gas tank had a crack. That's how we started the construction company. We knocked on some doors and had one person give me an opportunity. She had a problem. She had failing masonite siding. It was right. I provided a solution. And I made a commitment that day. I said, "Hey, listen, what are the things that when you think about construction companies, what do you think of?" And they said, never on time, don't communicate well, might show up a day, might leave, and might come. All the things. And I made a commitment. Every single thing that people hate about construction, I'm going to build a company that's completely opposite. Completely opposite. And we did our first $1 million in like 14 months. In a market on the tail end of the Great Recession, in a saturated market with hundreds of contractors, we ended up becoming a company that everybody aspired to be. Won national awards, won President Club's awards, all those things based on experience. We did everything different. And I actually just shared some things earlier in a Facebook post that I made about like, hey, as a business, your primary responsibility is to deliver an experience so memorable that your customers cannot wait to tell others about. What are you doing that makes it that wow experience? And that's the business we built. And over building that business, Brad, I learned a lot of things. Again, had a problem, solve a problem, but now let's build a business unlike anybody else in the construction space. But with growth comes challenges, right? In all businesses. And one of our mistakes was we just thought that that people were just gonna come keep doing business with us, like organically and things like that. And I'm gonna share this quick story because I think it's relevant here. It's especially to the business owners that may be listening here. It's not your customer's job to remember. It's your job to make sure they can't forget you. I came up with that phrase in like 2017 because I had gotten a referral from a customer and I was driving to the appointment to run the referral. And I look over at the person's house who we had done a bunch of work for that made the referral. And they had more work done that we didn't do. Shit. So I called them. And of course, exchanged pleasantries. Hey, what's going on? Oh, this couple basically adopted me, they said, right? And I said, how's everything going? Everything is great. The project manager was awesome. The crew was great. I said, thank you for the referral very much. I got a question. Did you get this other work done? And so she said, oh my gosh, you do that too? And it was at that moment where I learned one of the most valuable lessons in business. Don't take it for granted that your customers are going to remember you. It's your job to be vocal. Continually stay top of mind with those people. Express gratitude. And that was where this whole journey continued. But even during that time, Brad, I was still not really connected with the creator because I was still chasing opportunity. And this is very important because you talked about it earlier. There became a point where I said, I've got these 3 children, I'm responsible for them. God gave me them. He blessed me with them. He blessed me with a wife. I have a responsibility to take care of them. And so in 2018, on December the 23rd, I just made a commitment, man. Business was great. I made a commitment on that day. Hey, you know what? It's no longer about me. It's going to be a life about we. And that was really where I got connected, really where I started pouring into those relationships. And I've gone on this really, really cool journey. That'll be 6 years this December of personal development, deep inner work, a deep connection with God to serve him by serving other men and women through entrepreneurship, through coaching, through leadership. Man, I can tell you at this moment, I don't know when this podcast will come out, but it's Halloween when we're recording. Dude, I am whole. HOO.
That's awesome.
It's been an amazing journey.
That, it is crazy to see the, I guess, progress that people make over time. And it's like, I think of my last business, and the goal in that business, all we talked about was, let's build this to a point that we can just exit the company and make a bunch of money. And it's like, what was the purpose? Now, we had other whys behind it, but like, that was the topic of conversation. And I had a kind of like an all hands call with our team earlier this week, and we've had some moving pieces in the business. I opened up my agency April 1st of last year. My wife gets laid off in June. I'm like, I just got to find business. The plan I had for the business was not the plan we took last year. We're doing work for other agencies rather than direct to our client. It's a mess. And I made the choice beginning of this year, like, all right, I'm pivoting back. We're going direct to my client. My wife found her job. We got married September of last year. She began her job October 2nd, like 8 hours after we got off the plane back from our honeymoon. And so there's all these moving pieces. And so my executive assistant, who has just shown her true colors and is like going to become like in a leadership role in my company, I just see it in her. She says to me like, hey, we need to have like kind of like a kickoff call or an all hands call with them and just talk about like the direction of the company. And I caught myself on that call this week because I said to them, I said, this isn't about all the money and everything that's going to come through. I said, that's going to happen. I said, but think about how many people are on this call right now. And I just want to grow this team. I want to give, and we have an international team. And so people in all these countries that come and work for us, like they are blessed to have an opportunity, like more blessed than somebody who has a job working at McDonald's here does in the US. Like that is how blessed they feel. And I'm like, that's what this is about, is giving more opportunity to people and the money will come. And it was like in that moment, that was like a light switch for me. I was like, subconsciously, my brain was doing that. But that was like one of the first times that I spoke those words. And so as you were talking, I was just thinking about that growth journey and your comment of like, it's not me, it's we, it's us. And, my wife and I are expecting our first here in the next 5 or less weeks. And so like, I'm already kind of training my mind in that mindset I already have. Like, it's not me, it's we.
That's a really cool story. And I think that, Brad, thank you for sharing that. And the people on your team may not actually I want to just share this. They may not actually appreciate those words when you were speaking them in that moment. Because for them, likely is like about the money and paying the bills and all that kind of stuff. But what I have learned over time is that it's not just the impact on those people, but it's also the people that they touch. It's that ripple effect we talk about, right? You mentioned when we first got on about energy, one of the most energetic people you've met. And I said, energy transfers. And so let's say that, for example, in this moment, let's say you were having a bad day leading up to the time you press record. But if I bring the right energy with the right heart posture, now your day may be transformed. And now the next person you have a call with may be positively impacted. And now that person who had an argument with their spouse this morning now has a different mindset, and now that's been restored. And so that's what I also mean by we. Like that's what it means to serve. That's what it means to build the kingdom. And that's what I do through entrepreneurship. That's what I do through building raving fans. Really, we've been called like the gratitude company. And like, if you think about the currency of gratitude and how impactful that is, here's what I know. Humans are very complex people. We all have different DNA. We all have unique fingerprints. But here's the one thing that every single human being shares in common. Whether or not you're in St. Louis, Southwest Florida, the Philippines, Mexico, it doesn't matter. We all share the same basic desire to feel appreciated. At the basic level, guess what? We all deserve. And so if you can embrace that in business and use your business as a ministry and to go out and to pour into other people and express that gratitude. That's why I started the company Building Raving Fans. Full transparency is to make people feel good.
Yep.
Because when they feel good, they inherently want to share that experience with everyone else, because you don't wake up every day going, I can't wait to go hang out with Bobby because he just sucks and his attitude's terrible. He
Yep.
just drains my energy. No. You want to go hang out with Clifton because he's positive, he's upbeat, and he's going to deliver a great experience. So that's why we do that.
Absolutely. Well, and I know we're getting close on time here, but
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about like life and all that stuff, but let's talk a little bit about like your company, because that's a huge part of who you are now and everything like that. I think you saw me kind of looking off to the side. You'd actually sent me a card that was like exactly what you guys do. And I was wanting to pull it up and show it to you in my office behind the camera as a mess. Where's this card at? But why don't you go ahead and kind of just like give us a little bit about like what the company does and how you serve your customer and I guess their customers as well.
So Building Raving Fans is like I just kind of alluded to, is a gratitude company, right? We automate client appreciation. We automate employee happiness. We help small business stay top of mind with their customers. Okay. Again, it's how do you feel when somebody gives you something? You inherently feel good. The law of reciprocity states that when I do something for you, you then seek out ways to do something for me. I'm not suggesting we're doing this with any type of ulterior motive.
Right.
No, it goes back to people need to feel appreciated, right? So we started the company based on that premise. We're going to create a world where people feel appreciated. And so we do that through leveraging technology. We send out handwritten thank you cards to people. The technology is absolutely amazing. Like all of the stuff we do, I used to do in my own company. Again, I just dropped that social media post like, how are you doing these things? I used to write handwritten thank you cards to people when they would schedule an appointment with me. That card would show up before our team showed up and they're like, holy shit, nobody's ever done that. But so that's what we do. But we understand that small business owners are busy.
Mm-hmm.
It takes time to write cards. It takes time to go out and procure gifts and package them and ship them and mail them and create email campaigns and all the things. We've done all of that for small business. And so we're sending out, surprise and delight gifts on behalf of our customers. We send them to our own customers. And really, again, is to make people feel good. And because when they do and they feel appreciated, again, inherently, they want to share that experience with others.
Mm-hmm.
They generate referrals, repeat business, Google reviews, all the things that we need to do to, here's the key, all the things we need to do to build a relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what's so important in this is I reached back and I grabbed this book, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. It's a book that I send to every single one of our clients whenever they come on board with us, because it's important for them to comprehend the value of the marketing services, not just in terms of, cost per acquisition and all that stuff, but how much time they're buying back. And I went through a period where, to be honest, cash flow is tight. I kept kicking the ball down a little bit and then next thing I know, there's another client, and I kept forgetting to send out this book. So then I go order all these books, I go to send them out, and like the letter and everything that comes with it is like, welcome to the family, this and that. And I'm like, it's been like for some of these people 3 months, and that's not okay. And so I reword the letter and everything based like, hey, every once in a while I like to send out gifts to my clients, this and that. And I got an email on October 24th from one of my clients who had the hardest time signing up because they had been doing all the marketing themselves, wasting money on marketing, the whole 9 yards. And I get an email that says, thanks for the book. And it's like, apologies for the delayed response. We received your gift for the business book. Thanks so much. I loved reading it, especially when it's benefiting our future. We appreciate the thoughtful gift. Thoughtful gift. It was a book. And to be honest, it was a mistake that I made. I sent it at the wrong time. And it's like, okay, what if I would have sent that book at the beginning? And what if they would have gotten something else, 3 months in, 6 months in, that kind of thing. And so as people are listening, like that's how powerful what Clifton does is because those little things, like who knows, maybe this client is happy with our services. Maybe because they're on just an SEO plan, which Clifton, SEO takes a while. Maybe they're like, all right, like the results are there, but it's not as fast as I wanted. And maybe just that book is going to keep them for 3 months longer, that then the SEO engine is finally kicking in at full gears for them, that I haven't for a long, like, is this book the one thing that, or maybe not, who knows? I'm not going to ask, right? But it's one of those things that just having that ongoing relationship with people and dropping these little things, like, and you and I are going to have a conversation after this, because I got your card and everything. And like, I want to integrate what you guys are doing into our workflow, because it's huge to be able to help improve those relationships with your clients, helps keep them a lot longer.
You're exactly right. I love that you did that, right? I can't convince you, Brad, or anyone else to have a heart of service.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that. You either have that or you don't. You obviously do. What we do is to try to help you expand on that. So to your point, your listeners can't see this, but I just got this text message yesterday. Look what I just received.
Made my day.
Right? It's a gratitude journal and card set. Again, we said something very, very impactful and powerful there, Brad, is staying top of mind with your customers, letting them know how much you genuinely appreciate them. We see attrition rates getting slashed. We see referral rates going through the roof. We see repeat purchases coming back. We see now people in your industry, I've got some marketing agencies that we work with. Mm-hmm. We're now seeing customers go from an SEO plan to now a SEO plan plus a full website rebuild to now we're going to sign on for social media management.
Yep.
And so the cross-selling and upselling is happening. And by the way, at the end of the day, we've seen it reduce leads. I got a client right now who's in Las Vegas. He was at about a 12% lead cost scale mode, understandably. Mm-hmm. Working with him for about 2.5 years now, and he's got probably 450, 500 customers in a gifting plan. His marketing cost is 2.8%. He's going to do $10 million this year.
That's crazy.
So, the power of gratitude cannot be understated. So I applaud you for adopting that mindset, and you can see the results of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Clifton, thank you for your time on here. For anybody who's looking to get connected with you, either with what you're doing at Building Raving Fans or even your coaching at WinRate, what's the best way for individuals to get in touch?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. Best way is on social media, probably at Clifton Muckenfuss on Facebook, at Your Small Biz Coach on Instagram. You can go to buildingravingfans.com. A lot of stuff on there, a lot of videos, a lot of really good content. Got probably 20 plus articles on various things like that. So go check that out. And if what you've heard today makes sense for you, you want to explore that, reach out.
Awesome. Well, and for those who are listening, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review so we can continue to produce more episodes like this. And if you're online, which hopefully you are listening to this episode, don't forget to share this episode so we can get more exposure to what Clifton is doing at Building Raving Fans. But until next time, this is your Unfair Advantage.